Americans at work in an American industry as old as the first colonies, making a product for pleasure as old as farming. Brewers carrying on a father-to-son tradition of excellence and quality. A hot day, summer sun burning down, makes the most pleasant task seem difficult. Something cool is just what you need. How about ice water? A tall glass of orange juice. Cold milk is refreshing. Or maybe a soft drink. Or perhaps your taste runs to a frosty glass of beer or ale. Beer and ale are at home with 2 out of 3 American families. It takes a lot of people and a lot of raw materials to supply the demand for this beverage of malt. In the malt mill, the barley malt is crushed. Brewing actually begins on the farms, as it always has, where the grains and barleys are raised. The next step in preparing the ingredients is to combine the malt with heated, sterilized, and filtered water in giant mash tubs. Each master brewer prefers a certain kind of water. Some use mineral water, others take it from a mountain stream or a particular well. From the tub, a brewer takes a sample of the mash and tests it to see that all the starch is converted to fermentable sugar. The mash is stirred until all the malt proteins are broken down. In the lauter tub, the cooked grains and malt are separated from the liquid. At every stage of the process, a brewer controls the quality. The spent grains, removed from the bottom of the lauter tub, are actually returned to the farms to be used as livestock feed. The liquid drained from the grains is called wort. A sample is drawn and tested by another brewer. His eyes tell him that the wort is ready for the next step. Into the brewing kettle goes the wort, to be mixed with a small cone-shaped flour called hops. The hops add a tangy, bitter flavor to the wort as the liquid boils in the kettle. The brewer knows just how much to add for the exact flavor he wants. In the brew kettle, as in every other part of the brewing, can be seen the ageless methods of the brewmaster's art. The length of time of each process, the kind and amounts of the several ingredients are closely guarded secrets of every brewery. It is the brewmaster who holds the secret. In many companies, he is a descendant of the original brewer who has handed the formula down from generation to generation. Working under the master are younger men, learning the brewer's art so that they may someday hold the title from the German of Brewmeister. Before wort can become beer or ale, it must be cooled and fermented. The temperature is dropped rapidly from 212 degrees to about 50 degrees in refrigerated cooling tanks before being mixed with cultured yeast in the starter tank. The yeast converts the sugar in the wort to alcohol. From first step to last, exact time schedules are followed, determined by the brewmaster. In the storage tanks, the beer is aged for many weeks to bring out the best flavor and body. Only special kegs, dark bottles, and tightly sealed cans will serve the brewer as a container for his product from the aging tanks to the consumer. Before the kegs are filled, they are cleaned and sterilized with high-pressure steam. The resin lining of the kegs is cleaned out and replaced. The containers must be inspected just as the beverage is, at every step. A special light illuminates the inside of the kegs so that the inspector can check the lining and the cleanliness. He has standards to which he must adhere so that the beer or ale will meet not only company and government regulations, but the standards of the consumer. Bottled and canned beer and ale are sold in popular throwaway containers, delivered to the bottling plant in the same cartons to be delivered to the retailer. Even though the containers are filled by machines, inspectors must check to see that each bottle, can, and case is properly filled. Like the kegs, the bottles are thoroughly cleaned before being filled. Untouched by anyone, the containers are sterilized for health's sake, as well as to prevent any change in the flavor of the liquid. Throughout the plant, conveyor belts move the containers from one operation to the next. The beer and ale that fills the bottles and cans passes through meters that measure every drop, computing the federal tax and the amount going into each container. When the bottles have been capped and pasteurized, they are inspected. Each bottle is weighed, and if it is not exactly right, pushed off the line for the inspector to weigh again. Overweight bottles are returned to the line. Again, the bottles return to the cases in which they arrived. Another bottler is on duty to see that each case contains a full load of properly filled and capped bottles. Because the pasteurized bottles move at such high speed through the machine, they can explode. The inspector is protected by a heavy glass shield, as well as leather arm shields. Using cans for packaging beer is perhaps the most recent new development in brewing. All the other parts, the brewing processes, and the use of kegs and bottles date back centuries. Though new techniques and new containers have been brought into use, they have been combined with the old, not replaced them. The cans are filled in the same manner as the bottles, and after the lids are put on and soldered, they are sent through a pasteurizer. The filled cans must be weighed and the contents measured. X-ray devices check the contents of the cans, determining how much liquid is in each one, rejecting those too light or too heavy. They are weighed again, and the heavy ones put back on the conveyor. It is the constant checking for taste, quality, and volume that assures you, the consumer, of getting what you look for when you buy. Every day, case after case of the brewer's product is sent your way. Some in kegs for taverns, some in bottles and cans. Hard-working people like the brewers or anyone else are good customers for the products their labors bring. While many people enjoy beer and ale in their homes, others carry on the age-old tradition of the tavern. Draft beer from the keg fills the glasses of people passing a relaxing evening in the company of friends. When the kegs are filled and inspected, their fullness measured, the brewer's label and the tax stamps are applied. Not until every condition of quality has been met will a label appear on a container. When you see it, it means that the contents of the bottle, can, or keg are the best the master brewer and his assistants can produce, satisfactory to the brewer in every respect. From brewery to customer, beer and ale travel by truck, rail, and even water. The kegs are refrigerated so that they will be ready for immediate use when they reach the tavern, ready to cool the thirst of a tavern customer. The cans and bottles are delivered to the supermarket, to taverns and bars, to the restaurants and hotel dining rooms in cities and towns all over the country. In almost every state in the Union, there are members of the International Union of Brewery Workers of the Afl-Cio, whose only job is to provide the pleasant beverages of moderation. Beer and ale, from master brewer to truck operator. They are Americans at work for you. Americans at Work, presented as a public service by the Afl-Cio. Next week, another interesting story of Americans at work. Americans whose skill and effort help keep our country great and strong.